Rob, it's lovely to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Morning.
Welcome to the Test Match Special. Just a thought, though. I mean, we've been grumping along about light. I mean, I know it's been going. This debate goes on forever. But are you frustrated still that here we are with floodlights and different coloured balls and goodness knows what else? Every bit of technology known to man available. That it's not raining and there's a cover on the pitch and the players are off.
Yeah, it is. Especially, I mean, the way they were going about it, Duckett, Pope, they were playing very well. It didn't look like it was dangerous. And look, I do think with that what you need is actually to have a proper look, do some proper investigation into actually what is dangerous, because we don't really know. I think when the full floodlights are on, actually how hard is it to see the ball? It's not like, I don't think we've ever really done a scientific study in that. We've just sort of gone, do you know what, I think it's a bit dark, and then it's almost like a level is taken. But
different levels, different floodlights, all these things on different grounds as well. It's
correct.
So
it is frustrating, but I'm saying that now as an administrator.
Yeah, sure.
And as a player, I'd have been, no, what are we doing out here?
Yeah, far too
dark.
Can't
quite pick it up, especially if I was sort of like getting to the close of play. But
yeah, it does seem frustrating. But anyway, that's the situation out there. Lots to talk about. I mean, should we start with Pakistan? Because I think it is 30 days now until the first ball is bowled. Have you got any news at all? Because not least, actually, because it was such a popular tour a couple of years ago that there's a lot of people wanted to go out and watch. And I'm getting, people from touring companies saying, what's going on? They've got these people who've got tickets to buy up and so on. It's a bit shambolic, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're no different really. We have our ops team, so we have people looking to book flights, but you need the best part of 30 plus flights, and that's not easy in a group booking as well.
No.
And we don't know any more at the moment. We hear lots of rumours. I've heard about Sri Lanka, but I think it's raining in Sri Lanka. I've heard South Africa. I've heard whether you play in Multan and stuff like that. Yeah, but that changes the team. Imagine if you go from Pakistan to South Africa. Now, I don't think it's going to be there personally. These are all rumours that are flying around, and none of them coming out the PCB either, actually.
Yes.
Then that's a very different makeup to your side from what you'd have if you were playing in Pakistan. But my guess is, I think that we'll end up in Multan. I think Multan is one of the grounds where it's fine. None of this is a security issue. This is all about the grounds, where I think they're trying to get grounds ready for the Champions Trophy, and they're just a bit further behind, as often happens with builders and building work. You're not quite as far ahead as you think you are. My guess is I think we'll be in Pakistan. Whether it's for the entire series, I don't know. But that's nothing more than a guess at the moment.
Well, I hope we do. I mean, you mentioned security. Last time, of course, it was absolutely stiff with security. Is it going to be that, if they do play in Pakistan, is it going to be that sort of same level again?
Yeah, we have no concerns with the security, and I think it's because of the amount that you have out there. I mean, it was like presidential.
It was, yes.
Presidential security.
Especially in Multan, yes.
So no, I don't think that's going to be an issue. It does actually. I mean, I've been to Pakistan as a commentator, and places like Lahore are some of the best places to go out, certainly to eat, stuff like that. It's very different to what I was expecting. It's a great country, and the problem that we have as players, and if you're involved with the England team, probably the same for broadcasters there, you actually can't go out, which is a real shame at times, because it's a great country.
Yeah. Right, cricket business then, Rob. Let's start with Brendan McCullum then. I mean, it's was it difficult? Once you'd made the decision to move on from Matthew Mott, did you actually at any stage look beyond Brendan McCullum or not? Did you just think, well, this is the man really who I want to have doing this job?
So I tell you what happened. So you do a bit of work on try and work out what you think the best thing to do is. Is Motti the right person to take it forward? Is Josh Butler? All of these people, all these questions. And when I came to the conclusion that actually Motti had to move on, which is obviously a tough decision, but I made a point of thinking, well, I'm not going to go. And there was newspaper reports that I was speaking to other people about doing the job before that. But I thought, I'm not going to really give this much thought until that decision is done and Matthew Mott's been told. And then on my way back, that's when you really start thinking about, right, who's the person to do this job? And Brendan and I would speak nearly every day, pretty much every day. And I sort of, I was chatting away to him, and it's been not an easy conversation to have with Motti, and we're all very close and had grown close, even though they were split coaches. And I said, you don't fancy this, do you? And he sort of said, let's have a look at the schedule and let me just have a think about it.
So the door opened.
I thought, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then, Baz makes decisions pretty, not quickly, but he thinks about them. But once he's made a decision, he's fully committed to it. And I think the assistant coaches and stuff like that for a while have been saying, do you not fancy this? And I think it'd been sort of, this is, throughout the time. the time that he's been here as the test coach. And he sort of came back a day or so later and said, yeah, let's explore this. So when that happened, then you start looking at the schedule. Because 2 years ago when he came into the job, or 2 and a bit years ago, you couldn't have done this job. It wouldn't have worked for one person. And it wasn't about the fact there was a lot of cricket. It was the fact that the series just overlapped.
Yeah.
So I think straight away we had one series, we were playing a test series against New Zealand. In the middle of that, the white ball team were in Holland, and so on and so on. We're in Bangladesh with the white ball while the test team are in New Zealand. And then you start looking forward into the schedule and you think, actually, this can work. Now it's not so much about logistically getting people across and making sure they can be at each format. Now it's a bit more about being smart with making sure that the coaches, like players as well, Brendan himself, they're not going to end up with burnout because they've been doing so much travelling, spent so much time away from home. But I don't think that's going to be an issue going forward, and we can be smart with, there's opportunities as well for Trescothick, Collingwood, whoever it is, to go in and maybe take a series. So then you're actually doing a bit for coach development as well and giving people opportunities.
Yes.
So there's so many pluses to it. But the big thing as well, I think, life's pretty simple at times. You just try and get the best people for the job. The better the person, the easier my job is, really. And Baz, I think, is the best.
Well, he's brought a remarkable feeling of fresh air to it, hasn't it? And not just in terms of watching England play, but just wandering around amongst the players, which are privileged to do at the toss and so on. I mean, it's a very, very good environment that he's created. Well,
and that the basic sort of principle of it, I think, as you well know, international cricket is hard. Test cricket, there is so much pressure. So that's why we call it a test. It is hard. You put so much pressure on yourself as a player. And then there's external pressure, there's noise that comes with any high-profile job, especially playing for your country. You just don't want to add to that. If anything, you want to try and take it away. You want to make them think that this is the game you played when you were a kid. And Brendan, and that's very easy to say and hard to do, and that's what Brendan and Ben in particular as well have done. They've managed somehow to create this thing where you can go out and players, it's just like, maximise your potential. Now, that's not what they say, but that's somehow everything they do, that's how they achieve that, or that's how they try and achieve.
Yeah. Talking to Brendan, again, wandering around mainly, it's clear that he loves this job, isn't it? I mean, he really honestly does. You can tell that interview as well. I mean, he describes it as the best job in the world. I mean, you might have offered him a few quid less if you'd known that. but he does absolutely love it. It's almost sort of, whether he's just saying it for effect, I don't know. But it's like he's pinching himself, saying, mate, I just come here, throw a few catches, watch some cricket and have a few beers in the evening. Now, that's him underplaying everything, of course. But the way he has taken to English cricket is remarkable.
I know, he constantly just sort of walks around saying, what a gig.
Yes.
And for the last couple of years, even when it's not going so well, that's when he loves it even more.
Yeah.
So when you're 2-0 down in the Ashes, that's when you really see him go to work. And it's every single conversation he has then. That's when you're tested. So we interview lots of people for lots of different roles as coaches and all kinds of jobs in the role that I do, and often they'll say, we want people to be positive, we want people to enjoy it, all of this stuff. And then you say, that's fine, how'd you do that? And they'll go, well, one-on-one conversations. But I think the way you do it is when you fail, when you struggle. That's when you earn your money. That's where Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes really come to the fore. That's when they almost double down and say, no, don't listen to all the noise. This is how we're going to go and do it. Just
how they started,
the
really. I mean, the rubble that they inherited after the West Indies, they rebuilt it, didn't they? From that, really, with that sort of attitude.
Correct, and it's making sure because when things are chaos, as they can be in international cricket or playing for England, when everything's sort of losing control all around you, you look to the leaders to actually look like they're the ones in control.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are saying, no, everything's going to be all right, this is the way we go. And that's what they're brilliant at. They really, both of them, they're outstanding leaders. And Brendan's so bright as well, he just knows the right thing to say at the right time. And it's done often from an individual point of view. So whether it's at a barbecue, whether it's just, after a net, he's not the person when you're throwing balls to be saying to you, your head's just falling over there a little bit.
Yeah.
He's the bloke who's just going to subtly, nudge you in the right direction. A lot of subliminal messaging, he'll say.
Yeah.
And he's very, very clever with it.
Do you think that his extension and an expansion in any way alters the Ben Stokes situation? Which, I mean, nothing has been said about Ben, but I suppose people have sort of assumed that at the end of the next Ashes away from home, that might be a time where he looks at what he's doing and his future and so on. Do you think the fact that McCullum's going around a bit longer and influential in any way changes that? It might extend Stokes' life with England?
I don't think any of us have sort of thought about when it's going to end, to be honest. We sort of just take every moment as it comes. And I think as far as Ben's concerned, he'll do something as long as he's enjoying it and feeling like he's valued in the role that he's doing. And he's forget about the player, Ben Stokes, the player, who impacts every single game just by being there. Just for the fact you can balance the team makes such a big difference. Then you add the presence that he has. But actually, the captain that he is worth his weight in gold, really. And I think he loves that job, like Brendan as well. They're such a good partnership. I don't think they think about when it's going to end, really. They just keep enjoying the ride as you do it. I remember probably one of the first interviews Brendan did, and this really resonated with me. He said, you should enjoy your career whilst you're doing it. A lot of us, when we're playing cricket and doing jobs, we think, that was all right. We look back and think, there's a few good moments in that. But they're so determined to enjoy every minute of it, really, as much as they possibly can. And yes, they have hard times and they have unenjoyable times, but I don't think they look too far ahead when it comes to when they're going to finish in the job.
Yeah. I'm talking to Rob Key, the managing director of the England cricket team, of course, while the floodlights are still beaming down and we've got a couple of stewards looking rather lonely out there, a white sheet over the pitch, people chuntering a bit. But we're waiting for lunch to end, which it will do officially in about 15 minutes. And then I suppose the umpires will come out and make some sort of decision and whether we have to carry on chattering or not. But it's great to have Rob here. There's so much to talk about. You're up for the next couple of hours, aren't you?
Looks like it at the moment. Yeah, hopefully you won't have to listen to me. You get some cricket. I was enjoying watching Duckett.
I know, so was I. So the start of this summer, it felt like this was kind of a rebuilding phase, because there's India to come next year. There's the Ashes, of course, everyone always looks forward to particularly. This felt like the summer of, let's have a look at things. It's all laid out here. What do we need? What are we going to do? And from that perspective, it began with a tap of the shoulder on Jimmy, for Jimmy Anderson, of course, which is a strong decision to have to make. Looking at the way the summer has panned out with people that you brought in and how it's happened, you'd be pretty satisfied, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you sort of don't take anything for granted, but you're right. It wasn't an easy decision with Jimmy Anderson, and Stuart Broad has obviously finished last summer as well. But you just felt we needed now for the next evolution of this team. And it's quite a nice thing to have this as well, by the way, because you can't just keep doing the same things over and over again. You need a new story. You need something else to get your teeth into. So building a new bowling attack, was something that was really exciting, really. And I think that's across all formats as well, not just Test cricket.
Yep.
And then you start seeing the opportunity, and you always try and look with an optimistic lens on things. So you never know if Gus Atkinson's going to come in and do what he's done. You never know if Bashir or any of these guys do. But you pick with that sort of optimistic view, and you pick with a lens of where can they get to as well? We think they're really good at this point, but if everything goes if they develop in the way that we think they can, there's something that's going to be so exciting for a long time.
Yes.
And that's what's been really pleasing. It's not so much the winning for me personally, it's seeing Jamie Smith come in and play the way that he's done. And yes, he'll have sterner tests to come, there's no doubt about that. But seeing these guys come in and just show oh my God, this is where they are now. Where can they get to? And that's what's really exciting, because you never know. We never know on any of these guys if they're going to go out there and they're going to take to it or not. You just have your best guess.
Has Jimmy taken to his coaching role, or is that something that you can see extending? I mean, he was under contract, wasn't he? Let's be honest, for this summer. So I guess it kind of made sense that he could be used in that way. But does he look like a coach for the future, as far as you're concerned, beyond this summer?
Yeah, he does. I thought there was a great moment at Lord's. It was a great story, really, where you saw Josh Hull bowling in the middle and Jimmy was just standing at the top of Josh Hull's mark. I think it was in a lunch break or in the morning. And you think, how good is this? That all that knowledge, we just didn't want to lose everything that Jimmy had learnt over such a long, and a brilliant career. And then he's able to pass that on, and he seems, because Jimmy's not always, as you guys will know, he's not always the sort of most outgoing person in the world. But he's really taken it. And he always felt with Jimmy that for him to be a coach, and we spoke to him, and he'd be like, as long as you make the running with these people, because remember, these young players now, some of them, they would have been 2-3 years old, and they've not known life without Jimmy Anderson opening the bowling for England. And if you can just, without being forceful, because you've got to find your way as a coach, but if you can make the running, you going up to someone and saying, "Geez, well bowled," even if it's Mark Wood, I think at Edgbaston when he's just coming in at lunch and he says, just concentrate on the skill side of it. Don't worry about you not getting wickets. I think that can have such an impact, because what you're doing as a coach, I believe, and what Brendan does, your job is to try and make people feel confident, make them believe in what they can do, because players they've
got the skills to be here in the first place.
Correct, and you always, we all have insecurities, and we all wonder if we're good enough. And someone like Jimmy Anderson, him telling you something is going to carry its more weight than anyone else. And he seems, often he's not the easiest to read, Jimmy, but he seems to be loving it.
Enjoying it. So we're going to see him around beyond this summer, you think, with a tracksuit on? Yeah,
I think, it'd be great to have him in Pakistan, which we're looking to be able to do. The same with New Zealand as well, and who knows going forward. Jimmy's got a few itches to scratch, I'd imagine, along the way as well, but it's great to have him involved with us.
Yeah, definitely. Some of these selections have been remarkable, and I mean, you're sort of like domestically, politically remarkable. I mean, I don't know if you like this or not, but I likened the Jamie Smith selection to you opening the Surrey dressing room door, taking a pin out of a grenade, rolling it in and closing the door, leaving poor old Alec to pick up the mess. Now, I mean, how have you... Things like that are quite politically difficult, aren't they?
Yeah, but our job is to try and win games of cricket for England and pick the best team possible for England. And so Jamie Smith, obviously people had seen him in county cricket. We knew he was a good player.
Yes.
I'd been out a couple of years ago on the Lions, and there were two players there. This is what Lions cricket's so important for us, because you see people, we start seeing them in our environments really. And straight away, I watched the second test, I think it was, out there in Colombo. And there were two players, Josh Tongue and Jamie Smith. And you go there, if any of you guys would have been out there, you'd have all looked and just gone, well, these guys can play.
Yeah.
Josh Tongue, you just watched him on a flat pitch and you're like, don't care about his record or anything in county cricket, because what we're seeing here, whatever, that's all done. That's a reflection of history, which stats always are. They can inform the debate, but they can't make it for you, really. Whereas you just saw someone, you think, this guy's going to be brilliant. And the same thing with Jamie Smith. So then you see, and the same thing with the keeping, and I don't know much about keeping, but then you do enough work around, you speak to enough people, Alex Stewart, guys who know a lot more than you about certainly that discipline.
Yes.
And then you start thinking about, okay, well, there's enough here, let's go with it. And the other point was that he was in such good form that you felt that you were bringing him in, and he had a good chance of success because everything was going right for him. He was playing really well for Surrey. So county cricket it's not that we disregard county cricket, it just doesn't define how we're going to make those selections.
Which is a really interesting change, isn't it, from when you and I were playing. County cricket did define selection, and I would argue that it was a good thing, because it motivated you to perform well in county cricket, because there's a reasonable chance, especially in the 80s when I was playing, reasonable chance you might play for England next week. You might be out again in 2 weeks later, but the fact was that that did drive you on, and if someone got picked ahead of you, you thought, oh, hang on a minute, well, he hasn't been doing that, and I'm a bit disgruntled about this. So there is a fine line there, isn't there, to integrity of selection as far as our first class cricket is concerned.
Yeah, but you could also look at it and think you're opening up the opportunity. So it doesn't mean that you're only picking from the people who are at the top of the averages. You look at someone like Josh Hull. So you come through as a young kid now.
Yes.
You imagine, and that's what you want. You want the identity of your team, it to be very apparent for everyone else, how you get into that team. And then you start seeing, so if you're a young, quick bowler, all these young kids that are running, but they might be a bit erratic, they go, hang up, there's a good opportunity for me here. Because county cricket, we've over-indexed, if you sound like a proper sort of administrator, on medium-pace bowling, which is fine. That has been very, very successful in county cricket.
That's a job in county cricket.
Less so in international.
Agreed, yeah.
So what I think we're doing for county cricket is actually almost opening it up to everyone, where you look round and go, like, actually, so you've picked Josh Hull for 10 games, you might pick Ben Duckett, who's played 10 years of first-class cricket. So, to me...
All got a chance. Well, that's interesting. I must admit, I hadn't looked at it in that light, because, I mean, someone like Josh Hull that's a left field pick, isn't it? If you're looking at it from a traditional perspective again, two championship wickets at 180. I don't know what Fred Truman would have said about that, but I mean, it's not kicking the door in for the selection, is it? And yet you've clearly seen something. Well, left arm over for a start, and 6'7", and something has caught your and Luke Wright's eye.
Yeah, and Brendan Stokesy, a lot of us really in this setup, and then when he played in the Lions game, he was probably one of the pick of those bowlers.
Yeah.
So you start to see him there again. When I went down to Worcester and you watch that and you think, hang up, yeah, we've seen left arm, quick as well, and he'll vary. I think what you'll see at this part of his career is someone who might bowl a spell that's 80 mile an hour, then you might see him bowling 85, you might see him get to 90, because he doesn't understand his action yet. He's learning, but the ceiling, as I keep hearing now, the ceiling is very, very high for him. And then at the very least, this is what a great time. I mean, what a great, there's making your international debut is not easy, but this could be a great time to do it.
Yes.
Because you come in as the fourth seamer, really. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to bowl. It means, he'll probably come in second or third change, and then you can set the field accordingly, and you can just see someone with such potential start that journey. And if you pick people with real high talent, and then you give them an environment, they try and adapt to that. So you're hoping that he's going to do that. Then you'll have things like we've got Shoaib Bashir, also the footmarks that he'll help create, so he becomes more of a weapon. So there's so much upside to someone like Josh Hull, and even if it doesn't go well for him, it doesn't mean that's not the end for everyone. No. They then learn, like sometimes you need to go through a bit of struggle to understand what the level is, and some of us played like myself and you don't quite make it, but you start understanding, hang up, this is where I need to be, this is the jump. And it's no bad thing to tell young, talented people, this is the level, this is the mark. The mark is the best players in the world. It's not your county teammates. It's about being the best, Pat Cummins, James Anderson, Stuart Broad, all the great bowlers. That's the mark for you now, especially when you come, because I was a little bit like this from Kent. When you come from a smaller county, so to speak, especially nowadays, England can seem a long, long way away.
Yep.
But actually, it's like, no. It's pretty close, and this is the level you need to get to now.
Well, it does transform, because it wasn't so long ago that England, or county players, it's not totally told, but essentially told, if you play second division cricket, you ain't going to be playing test cricket. And so there were people moving around here and everywhere. You have, by picking Josh Hull, let's face it, I mean, it is a very brave selection, but based on just all that you have, which is, well, data, I suppose, we base it on that. But it does show that you are casting your net far and wide in terms of the divisions of Championship cricket, and geographically as well. Because Leicestershire, let's face it, we feel pretty small in there as well. And it gives counties like that relevance.
Absolutely, and they have such a big. Let me just one thing: it's not data that we pick them. Data narrows the field, if you like, so you can see the speeds that everyone bowls in county cricket. Then you try and use the intuition of the experts that we have around, really, whether that's Brendan, Ben, Luke Wright's been fantastic. I love the fact that Luke Wright sort of, he doesn't make a song and dance about being a selector. Half people don't even know he's doing it, yet he's had such a big impact. Gus Atkinson, Shoaib Bashir, Luke Wright's the one watching all of these guys in county cricket at times. He's the one speaking to them. He's the one that, I always say to him, like, don't just be the person to tell them whether they're in or out. Be the person when someone gets some runs to say, you're playing well. So they know that they're closer almost, so it's not such a transactional.
Can I come back at data, though? Because data suggests form, which suggests confidence. And if you're taking 2 at 180, I don't know if you're really running in thinking, I'm going to get a load of wickets today. I mean, how do you balance that level of how he... I know he got those 5 wickets against Sri Lanka, yes. But it's not a bag full of wickets that he's bringing into. It's not Jamie Smith bringing a big 100 into the Test match that he made his debut in.
Yeah, but that's my point. We don't go. The data doesn't make the decision for us. So sometimes like I say, it can narrow the field. So it might not be his wickets, but it might be. Now we can track every single ball that someone's bowling in Championship cricket.
Yes.
So the data might be the speed that they're bowling, stuff like that, and you can see it pretty. Someone's 80, 88, someone bowling 87 average speed, someone's 78, all of that. So it narrows the field a little bit. Then we look and you use your intuition a little bit, which I'd say does it more. So it's a bit more, it works together. The data isn't the thing that generally makes the decision on people or not make the decision on people, to be honest. But like, I've sort of, there's so much talk about cricket and Test cricket and where everything's going. I sort of I'm of the opinion that as long as countries are producing talent, then the game's in good order. Then it's a scheduling issue.
Yeah.
But as long as, so I take someone like the West Indies, right? I thought I'd love watching their bowling attack in particular. Good pace. That looks like there's real potential there. And then you think about when you watch them play T20 cricket, and you think, look at some of the talent that they've got coming through there. Nicholas Pooran looks to me like one of the best players in the world at the moment, and I don't care the format. So you almost need to stop the barriers to entry. So you don't have to go and play loads and loads of domestic cricket back in the Caribbean. We've got a test match at Lords. We'll see you at Lords. What do you want to play the warm-up game at Beckenham, but you can come into that game. So you take away some of you've got to change the way we think about how we're making selections at times. And then as long as your country is producing the talent, it will always be in good order. Then you've just got to come up with a schedule that actually works so you can get these guys to come and play, which is easier said than done, and I sound like I'm on my high horse about that. But I think we talk so negatively at times about the game, whereas actually the amount of talent around the world is incredible.
Yeah. How much has it changed since you were playing? I mean, talking about the management side now.
Yeah.
We all sat there as, I'm very ambitious. County cricketers desperate to play more for England. How many tests did you play?
15, something like that.
I mean, you almost wanted to play more, and now you're involved in this very high-profile job with England cricket. You're probably in a good situation to see how different it is now to how it was then.
Oh yeah, if you're like so the biggest difference I think when you're slightly older than me, but we came through at a similar time where actually England cricket was the only game in town.
Yeah.
So it's like and really Test cricket.
Yeah.
Even the start. So I started late 90s. I think 98 in county cricket. I couldn't have cared less about white ball cricket. Like if you played a white ball game for Kent, it was like I'd rather have the Sunday off so I could then go out on the Saturday night, 18, 19 with my mates. So no, it was so far down the.
One day was like a warm up for the Test series.
Correct.
Yeah.
There was at one stage there was like 3 days of a championship game, 1 day game on the Sunday, and then you finish the championship on the Monday.
Yep.
You couldn't care less about the Sunday. Now that's changed. So now, so back then you had to strive. You had to be. Test cricket was the only option. Now I think that most young players in England will still say that Test cricket that's what they want to do. I'd say most young players think, I'd love to play Test cricket for England.
Yes.
Even the white ball guys that are coming through, they'd love to play Test cricket. But the biggest difference is that if that doesn't quite work after 2 or 3 years, you go down another route. And you start going down the franchise route. So you start going down, people will play in, whether it's there's players playing in the Caribbean Premier League
all year round almost.
Yeah, they're doing it, and they're probably a lot of them are probably taking the best part of $500,000 a year doing that.
Yes.
And that's not centrally contracted cricketers because you don't have that option, certainly in our summer, to go and do that. So it's a very different world where, it's a bit like before it was all or nothing England. Now it's like all or nothing England until it gets a little bit hard, and then maybe we'll go a different route and there's other options for me to go and make a living.
Do you still feel, I'm going to go on the contracts a second, last year, where some people thought that actually you've been quite generous about the length of some of those contracts.
Yeah.
Someone like Mark Wood, there's a lot of talk of him going off and playing franchise and so on. We've got to keep him. Was that a bit of an overreaction, do you think? Or because you said that you still feel that England cricketers and those coming up want to play for England. You look at like that contract and Johnny Bairstow's got a year to go, and there are some there that seem like you were quite generous. Is that a fair comment?
No, I think any central contract's generous, but I think that there's a lot of not many people really know how the contract system works, to be honest. Like they just think, well, every contract's the same. Not at all. Every single player and and all the contracts serve a different purpose, really, or serve many different purposes. So there's a few long-term bets in there. So people like Ray and Ahmed, people like the younger bowlers, Potts, Atkinson, Bryden Cass, some of these guys, they're long-term bets, and their contracts, maybe shouldn't say it, but it's not that much more than their county contract in a lot of cases, But what we're doing there is it's like, well, now you've got, for the next couple of years, you're some of the longer term bets that we've got. When you're on a central contract, you have the resources of the ECB at your disposal. So that means that if you're a bowler, you get RS and Cs. It doesn't mean we take over from the counties, we work with them. But a lot of the time it means that now if we want you to go and play Lions cricket, like some of those guys did last year, rather than going and playing in the SAT 20, because we think that Lions cricket's so important. So Bryden Cast, Matt Potts, who had a really good time out there, they could have gone off and played franchise cricket. But because they're on a contract and because they want to as well, we can then keep their development in Lions cricket, because Lions cricket is literally you get paid a cup of tea and a biscuit for it. That's about it. And really
it's your stepping stones.
It's an investment in you.
Absolutely, yes.
And there's more. So I get so many franchise owners or agents ringing me about the South African T20 and the IL T20. Is so and so going to be available for this, or are they playing Champions Trophy? Are they playing that series before the Champions Trophy in India, which clashes with those? But we've now got a lot of our guys on a contract, so they, quite frankly, have no choice. They have to play for us. So that's another purpose that it serves. It also has, you want to value Test cricket as well at times. So, you could, with the guys who aren't in the franchise circuit, you could very easily just say, well, you're not going anywhere. You just stay on your county contract and we don't have to pay you any more than that. But you still want to value Test cricket, and the contract system is steeped towards Test cricket a little bit. So that's another purpose that it serves. And also then you have the value of, the Ben Stokes. It's not just, it's gone away from being like a daily rate. Effectively, you're going to play this amount of games, you get paid the most. It's like, what's your value to English cricket now? So then you try and have the system so that you're rewarding the right people as well. And look, there's no doubt we'll have to finesse it at times. We went into multi-year contracts. We got negotiations, so every new broadcast cycle as we're going into next year, there's debates about the amount of money that should go into a pot, and that money goes into a pot, then it gets dispersed amongst the players, right? It's not like if we pay someone, then that money could go to something else. No, it all goes to the players, really. And having 3/4 of your star, or 3/4 of the best players in the country signed up to a long-term deal is not a bad place to be for negotiation.
No, so, and I guess we're fortunate that you can do that. There are other countries that simply haven't got that sort of resource to be able to tie their players up. And I guess the reason I asked that, Rob, is I'm just wondering how secure you do think international cricket is, and whether there is, you say you're getting phone calls from franchise owners and so on about, availability for international tournaments like the Champions Trophy, for instance. I mean, does it feel like the wagons are circling around international cricket?
I suppose it can do, but as I said a little while ago, I think, countries got the first thing they've got to focus on is making sure they're producing the talent, and then there's got to be a little bit. Everyone, there's like a standoff at the moment. Same in like county cricket, where no one really wants to give in to anything. No one wants to give a little bit back. So you need to get to a point where, for the schedule to actually work, everyone needs to give a little bit. It might be a little bit less of, whether it's 50 over cricket, for example. Whatever it is, people need to give and work together to try and come up with a system so that Test cricket can be played at a certain time. And I don't talk about so much windows, but certainly, where you just know where everything is, whether that's T20 cricket, whether that's franchise cricket, whether that's Test cricket. But really, everyone's got to get together and start working out how they do that and what they're prepared to sacrifice in order to do it.
Yeah, and can you see that happening? Is there an appetite for that? I mean, let's face it. I mean, the 100 next year, we know already that process, the private investment process, is underway. Clearly quite a key part of our domestic game at the moment. I mean, is that weakening the national, the structure of English cricket by having outsiders running part of the season, or not?
No, I don't think it is. I'm optimistic about that, to be honest. I think that, the big thing when I watch stuff like the 100, and clearly if you add a month's worth of cricket to the season, it's going to disrupt the schedule. That's where I say there needs to be some give and take and stuff like that. And the people who are against the 100 will say, well, the 100 is not prepared to sacrifice anything, and vice versa, and all of that. But do you know what? When you go to a game, and you go, I remember coming to the first game here, and you do see, sometimes I get frustrated because you think, you go around and you see young families watching the cricket and enjoying it, and you speak to kids and they love it, and then it's like, sometimes it's like only in England do we see that sort of audience and think we need less of that, or we shouldn't have that. It's that just because you need to make sure. I've loved, as you have, playing this game. But it's going to change a little bit. That's not a bad thing. And if more people, you need people. I've got kids. They don't watch telly and stuff like that. They're on phones, and it's a very different world to what we grew up in. And you have to cater for them, and you need to make sure you've got the next generation falling in love with the game. But it's a tricky one.
Yeah. Contract-wise, Ben Stokes actually chose just to sign 1 year, didn't he? Which is that Ben being a bit Benish, or is that he had reason for that? I mean, he'll presumably he's going to sign another one.
Yeah, Ben's absolutely committed to English cricket. There's no question about that. Everything he does, really, when he's injured and stuff like that, he almost thinks about it even more, Stokesy. No, but it's because we changed the way we did it and offered multi-year deals, stuff like that, out of cycles. So the big negotiation is now. Really, the change of the system. You every 4 years or 5 years, depending on how long the broadcast deal is. That's when the start of that is when just before that is when the negotiation starts. And Ben probably felt he wasn't exactly sure what that was going to look like going forward. Whether it was going to be more money, less money, all of that, and that uncertainty. The human brain hates uncertainty, and Ben no more so than anyone else. So, but I have no concerns at all with his commitment to English cricket. I'd say he's arguably, you just watch what he does when he's injured. He's training hard to the point where you always have to say, he's
voracious, really. Yes,
slow yourself down a little bit, mate.
Well, I suppose his injury really was the only sort of blot on this summer's landscape, really. I mean, if he'd been captain and leading on with the momentum that there's been, that's kind of the only thing that's gone wrong this summer, is it?
Yeah, but again, that sort of presented opportunities for other people, really. And it's you get to see, it's been a good summer to see what happens. If Ben Stokes gets injured, what we're going to do. So we had a decision to make. Do you bring in a like for like, albeit there's no obvious like for like in terms of how good Ben is?
No. Like Sam Curran or something like that.
Yeah, and Sam Curran's a very good cricketer, but he's not Ben Stokes, right? But that's one debate. Or do you go then with 3 seamers and the 1 spinner? Or do you go with what we've done, is where you go with the 6 batsmen and you don't replace Ben actually as the batter, you just go with the bowling. But so it's been an interesting summer to try and see how that works. And then it's meant, then that's why he's so valuable to English cricket, because the knock-on effect of him not being there. Then it's like, right, okay, we need to make sure our number 7 can not only bowl but bat as well. So then Chris Woakes, then Gus Atkinson getting those runs.
He's had a remarkable summer.
Unbelievable, especially at Lords as well. And Lords
was going on in the background of his life as well, by the way. I mean, how on earth he's handled all of that? I know, it's extraordinary.
Incredible, really. I was reading about that more so, more about that the other day. But him coming in and doing what he did with the bat, that's what this summer's given us. It started all of a sudden, because he was batting 9 or 10 for Surrey, bowling 4th change. Yep. And I don't think even Gus knew what he could do, really. But it's not the fact that he got runs, but it's like, hang up, this lad can really bat. Now, we thought, in time he could be a really good number 8. But that's happened quicker. And that's when you give talent like that an opportunity. It's amazing. They almost surprise themselves. In a good environment too, where you're just welcomed and you fit. Well, and that's, I said this the other day, for all my waffle about selection, brave, data, analytics, all this stuff, none of it works without the environment. No. So the absolute key is the environment that they've created. That ability to let players feel like they can go and do what they can do or play their best game without adding to the tension and stress. We talk about transmitting anxiety onto people, which, when I played, there's a few people that did that, but actually that's the key to it, because then the selections can look really good, but actually the key is the environment. Yeah. Nice to see Andrew Flintoff here today. I've been loving watching his programme. It's just been incredible. Yeah. What's his? How's that sort of canvas looking with Freddie, do you think, in England? Well, Freddie's loving coaching. Really enjoying coaching. He's going to do more stuff with us in the winter. He's got a lovely way with people, hasn't he? Which I didn't necessarily see when he was playing, if I'm honest. Oh, you didn't like him when he played? No, I loved him, but he's big and brash and a bit hostile. I mean, maybe the Brett Lee thing was a bit of just a little bit of insight into what Freddie is actually like, and he's got a real soft heart, hasn't he? Do you know what I think? There's sometimes it's a trait that's not spoken about enough, especially with sports people. you know, and young people, when you talk, you know, like he's kind.
Yes.
For all the things that Fred can be, you know, whether he's funny, whether he's this, whether he's extrovert, introvert, he's kind. And he's always been kind. And I think it's such an underrated quality. And that comes out. And there's the thing that Brendan does, the thing that I think Fred does. You get coaches who think often, you get coaches that think, do you know what, I'm going to be the smartest tactician you can be. My job, I'm going to make really good decisions, and I'm going to be really smart, I'm going to map out the game, and I'm going to plan everything, and I'll be really like this. Whereas actually what the Brendans do, they're not necessarily the ones that are planning the best, but they're the ones that they're about making you feel the best. There's that great quote I was talking about with Michael Atherton. I think we can't really remember who it was. Assel can't remember where it comes from, but he thought it might be Alf Ramsey, where he said, players won't remember the tactics you told them 3 days before a game. They certainly won't remember what you told them not to do an hour before the game, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And that is basically what Brendan McCullum, Andrew Flintoff's the same. Like, they might tell you, because the truth is you can have tactics that are fantastic, but if you've got an environment that's stifling, they ain't going to work.
No, it's not.
And then if you've got tactics that actually aren't the right thing, you know, you'll be sitting here thinking, what sort of field setting is this? And we all know, like I say, that's a mad field. That's a mad tactic they're doing that, and it works. And a lot of the time it's because the people feel, sometimes it's luck, but it's because the people feel empowered, all those sort of buzzwords, and that's what they're able to do as leaders. And Fred's the same. And so him being an English cricketer, remember, this generation all grew up watching him.
Yep.
You know, you commentated on him. He's
One of your mates.
One of my best mates. Yep. But you know, you want, you know, a coach to inspire. People say, you know, when you get coaches, can they run appraisals? Do they understand process? Do they do this? There's a lot of people. You know, we're in London.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of people that can run a process.
Does Fred bother with appraisals? Stuff. I can't see him being a sort of appraisals man, really.
Use AI now, didn't he?
Is that the way to do it? Yes, I suppose it probably is. Last one, and it seems forever away. I mean, people, well, not everyone, but people must start talking about the Ashes. But have you actually started filling in notes on your notepad about preparations for the Ashes? It's interesting in that, by the look of it, we're not starting at the Gabba, which is quite that's something, isn't it, for a start? But how far down the line are you to even thinking about preparation for that?
I just think we're into like the schedule, trying to work out, you know, if you go basic logistics, where we start, how we want to prep. We got a tour against New Zealand before, like a white ball tour and all of this type of stuff. So that side of it. But I think ultimately you just try and evolve every day, and you try and get better. You try and give people opportunities, and that sort of started now. And I know Stokesy talks about the Ashes, and you know, Jimmy, all of this stuff, you know, it's about Ashes planning, but actually it's just about trying to be as good a team as we possibly can be for as long as possible.
Yeah. Sounds very simple. Yeah, it is. But that's the message, isn't it? It's not complicated.
No, just try and get better.
Yeah. Rob, look, it's lovely to chat to you. Thanks for coming in. An extended session there. I really appreciate it. Well, it's nice to catch up and see what's going on your side of the fence. Are you enjoying it over there? I think you look like you are.
No, it's great fun. Like, you actually feel like, you know, you feel like you're doing something. You know, you make a decision and you find out very quickly if it's rubbish or good. It's quite good fun. It's like, you know. You
haven't had many rubbish ones, have you?
Oh, they can come, I'm sure.
I think you're doing all right. You're doing really well. And always a very approachable face. Thank you.
No
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for coming in.